So I'll start with my major. I'll follow Lane. I'm going to graduate after the first summer session with a degree in civil engineering, and I majored in water resources. Next year, I will be spending my time as a full-time husband and grad student. Lab and do research. Right now I'm working out at that same hydraulics lab and I'm chopping weeds, so my position will get better. You guys may have noticed when I lead worship, my prayers always tend towards changing our hearts and having God change us. Maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not. I think it's fairly obvious. But the reason being, one thing that I've learned especially this year is that college is not the end-all and the be-all of our life. I am going to graduate, and I'm staying in college. I decided to put off real life for another year or two. I was a grad student. But this time is prep for what we will be doing later on. My time in college is prep for what I will do for the next, I don't know, maybe 60 years, maybe 70. I'll keep running and working out and stuff. Maybe I'll play. But that change, that not being afraid of change, not being afraid of God changing our hearts, I found is really, really important. And the other point that I wanted to make along with that, the core group, I spoke at core group. Woo! Segundo core group freshman. Yeah. Probably the coolest core group ever. Chris, you know, rivalry. I'm just kidding, Teresa. But I talked about intimacy. And what verse did I talk about? Oh well, whatever. Paul, it's actually a lot of places in the New Testament. Paul uses a word. I forgot it already. I forgot the Greek word. But the word is know. And it says, I want to know Christ in his fullness. And that word know is a word that means totally and fully know. Not just like, oh, I know, well, hey, we hang out, we go to DCF, he's a staff at DCF, I like him, he's cool. But there's so much to Will that I don't know about. And that's the kind of know that Paul's talking about with God. Saying, I want to know him, I want to know him fully. And it's a knowing that brings intimacy. And it's in that place of intimacy that we are changed. It's in that place with God. The more time we spend with God, the more we will be changed. I can see that correlation in my life. The more time I spend with God, one quarter I'm like, woo, 1 hour a day, 5 hours a day of quiet time, and my quarter goes great. And then the next quarter I'm like, 30 minutes every other day, maybe once a week. There's definitely a correlation between the amount of time that I spend in God's presence and how my life is going. So I really encourage you guys, from what I learned, spend time with God and ask him for change. Ask him to change you. He does it, and it's cool, and it's exciting. So, yeah.
But mine, it just went so perfectly following that. So keep what Zach said in mind. And I have a lot of time at work, so I wrote out what I wanted to say. And I'm kind of just going to read it, because then I'll elaborate, or I won't elaborate more than what I wrote. So my point is God changes our priorities to match his if we ask him and then obey. He will change our heart. So this is kind of just my thought process, and then we'll go from there. So if actions speak louder than words, then my actions are a better measure of what I truly believe and live for. If I think about all my actions throughout a day, how I'm choosing to use my time, how many of them reflect putting God first? We all say that, but how many of them actually reflect that? What am I sure to do, even if I only have a little bit of time? What's constantly on my mind? And the first thing that usually pops in my head is exercising, working out, my image, my career, my future. What am I doing? That's what my actions reflect. My main priority is. And so I'm just thinking about that. And the verse that he brought to me was Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. In other versions, above all else, guard your heart, for from it flows the springs of life, because the source of your life flows from it. Like, basically your life is coming from your heart. And what this led me to was that I need to be guarding my heart above all else. Obviously it says that. But like, in my case, my bike, some of you, your cars, your house, your apartment, your checkbook, your health, like, you protect those things because they're valuable. You know exactly where they're at and you protect them. But above all of those, I need to be protecting what goes into my heart. And what gets a lot of space and priority in my heart. And so there's a lot of things that are good, but they can easily become idols in your lives, like watching TV shows, following sports teams, exercise, fashion, money, issues, relationships, social life. Like, a lot of those things are good, but in excess, and it's an idol. And so it's wise to sacrifice those things that are good for your hearts and make sure that they're in the right place. And so I was thinking about that, and I'm sure you guys have all heard the Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart above all else. I'm like, how do I guard my heart? Like, you can say it, but how do you do that? And so I asked him that, and he's like, he pointed out 3 different areas for me specifically, I guess, and one of them is my eyes. Matthew 6:22-23, your eye is a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is good, your whole body is filled with light, but when your eye is bad, your whole body is filled with darkness. So you need to watch what your eyes are doing. My thoughts, 2 Corinthians 10:3-5, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. So take captive your thoughts, because they lead you astray and go along those line of idols and where your heart shouldn't be. And then prayer. Philippians 4:6-7. You guys probably heard this one too, but catch the last part. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Good. So it's through prayer and his peace, that's what's actually guarding your heart. And so he kind of just brought this all together, and he's like, okay, you got to guard what you let into it, and then gauge where you're at by what comes out. And when I thought about that more, my heart determines my actions, my words, my thoughts. When I'm snappy or rude or irritable, judgmental, all those opposites of the love is patient, love is kind, if you think the opposite of that, when you're that, then that's what's ultimately in your heart. So that's the main priority of my heart. And when it's not what love actually is, something needs to change. So that's when I asked the Lord to specifically point out what I need to let go of, what's in my heart that shouldn't have so much room, and then to align my heart with his. And that was kind of the whole thought process of what I've come to. And I guess my encouragement is that he answers, and he will tell you what you need to let go of, and he will change your heart. Like, just over this last season, I've seen so much change in just my priorities throughout the last few months. Like, it might not be a big thing, but exercise is a pretty big thing for me, and so I'm a morning person, and I will wake up early to go exercise because I like it. And it's been changing in my mind and in my heart to, like, I'm going to wake up early to spend time with the Lord. Like, I would rather be doing that than exercising. And that's not something that I would choose to do. So he's doing something, and just encouragement that he will do it if you ask, and then obey. And he will give you opportunities to obey. I will be leaving in August to go to Oregon for physical therapy school. I was exercise bio.